An orphan brother and sister stumble across a magical board game that brings the jungle to life, unleashing crazy monkeys, stampeding elephants, crocodiles, and some weird hunter that looks suspiciously like Robin Williams' dad in the movie. This is Jumanji, and we are here to remake this movie right. Hello, my fellow cinematic architects, and welcome to Remake This Movie Right. We are a member of the Hollywood Outsider Network. Listen to episodes of Remake This Movie Right on iTunes, where reviews are appreciated. Stitcher Radio, throw our RSS feed into your podcast app of choice, or just visit the website at remakethismovieright.com. Remember, at the end of the episode, if you have your own pitch for this remake that you want to submit, email it to remakethismovieright@gmail.com. That's remakethismovieright@gmail.com. We will read the best pitches on our next teaser episode. What is Remake This Movie Right? Well, since everything is getting a remake these days, and I mean everything, we thought, why not take the original film that has an actual remake in the works, figure out what still clicks, what doesn't, throw a little bit of humor at it, and then determine exactly how Hollywood should remake it. By the end of each episode, we will have the remake ready to roll for Hollywood execs and present to you in movie trailer form. We are here to tell Hollywood how to remake this movie right. I am your host, Aaron Peterson, and joining me today from the Hollywood Outsider is Brian Williams.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Not much, you southern gent. And from the Gaming Outsider, Scotty Clark.
You son of a pitch.
Son of a pitch. I like what you did there. You kept it clean, yet eluded.
Well, I got movie pitches. So.
Wow. It's like an onion. It's like a joke onion. It's just got so many layers.
And it makes you cry with how bad it is.
Just peel them back.
For this episode of Remake This Movie Right, we are discussing Jumanji. And in case you don't remember Jumanji, Robin Williams starred as Alan Parrish. He's a boy who sucked into a magic board game when he was a boy, only to be released 26 years later as a man who's been hiding in the board game, presumably, for 26 years, because two orphan kids are forced to play the game again. Faced with certain destruction for his hometown, Alan agrees reluctantly to finish the game and set everything back right. The original film starred Kirsten Dunst, a young Kirsten Dunst. Well, it made me feel bad about watching Melancholia or whatever. And Bradley Pierce as Judy and Peter Shepard, the orphan kids. And Bonnie Hunt starred as Sarah Whittle. She was the poor woman who played with Alan originally, only to watch him get sucked into the game, and no one believed her. It was so sad. How many of us saw this in the theater? Raise your voices.
I think I did. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure I did.
Scott?
I did not see it in the theater.
No?
I saw it on home video. Pretty sure it was VHS.
Ooh. You still have a VCR?
No, I don't own it on VHS.
He didn't say he just watched it.
I know that. I just asked the question. Does he still own one?
No, I don't own a VCR.
Made me feel a little nostalgic. Get off my back.
Yeah, I mean, they look better on VHS. Like people with records, they sound better on a record.
Well, when you first saw the movie, what was your impression? Because you're the youngest of the three of us, so I assume you're closer to the demographic of a 9-year-old.
Well, yeah, I was 15 when this movie came out. This was like the perfect sweet spot for me. Just my imagination went wild. The concept was awesome. I watched this over and over and over when I was a kid. Well, 15, older kid, I guess you would call it, but
that was kind of a kid.
And I was at the age where it wasn't creepy for me to think Kirsten Dunst was cute. Like she was right in my price range.
Wow. In my price range.
Wow.
Hang on, let me write that down.
Marker on us.
I've never really heard Scott go so creepy, and I want to write that down. All right. Well, here's some fun facts before we talk about the original a little bit more in detail. But it made $100 million in the U.S. and was in $262 million worldwide. So it was a pretty decent sized hit because it came out in 1995. According to author Chris Van Allsburg, the word Jumanji, because it was based on a book, is Zulu for many effects, which alludes to the exciting consequences of the game as mentioned in the film. Scarlett Johansson auditioned for the role of Judy Shepard. How about that? That's interesting.
How old was she at that point?
I assume
she was still
same
pretty
age.
young, right?
They're about the same age, right?
Yeah.
So whatever age Kirsten Dunst was. whatever the price range was for Scott Clark. Though the plot differs greatly from that of the book, which it's based, the ending of the movie is apparently very close. The game was found by 2 other young children. In the book, the 2 children who find the game at the end are named Walter and Danny, and they are the main characters from Zathura. Do you guys remember that movie?
That's interesting. That was a
Yeah.
Dax Shepard one.
Yep.
Small world. And lastly, the Jumanji board game was so popular throughout the years up to the point where a replica of the Jumanji board game was sold in 2014 for $60,800.
Wow.
Who wishes they had Jumanji board game right now?
I didn't even know it existed. I never knew it was a real board game.
What'd you think it was?
I thought it was just a movie and a book. I didn't know they actually made a board game of it.
Well, apparently they did. And if you played, your house was destroyed. And real quick, before we get into the actual original, for those that don't remember Jumanji or you're a little rusty, here's a little clip to explain all the what year is it references that people keep making.
Get down off of my car, please, and get up on the sidewalk.
What year is it?
It was brand new.
No. What year is it?
1995, remember?
You got some ID? Oh, let me guess, you probably left it in the other Tarzan outfit, right?
26 years.
Are you from around here?
I was. But I've been in Jumanji.
Indonesia. He was in the Peace Corps.
Well, getting into the original, now, due to listener feedback, we've kind of tweaked how we go about this. We spent a little less time on original and get right into the remake. So, what makes this a movie worth remaking to begin with?
Well, for me, the concept itself is just such a clever idea that I had never experienced up to this point in my life. The writing is so well done, even though this is considered probably a kid's movie. Everything just fits so well together. It just, all the pieces just work. Sometimes I just like to sit back and marvel at how well the story flows. Just there's so many different characters that interweave. I know you've got a little bit of a time element, but everything just really works. And on top of that, the imagination factor is huge. You almost feel like you're playing out the personification of a kid's mind while watching the movie. Like whatever a kid is thinking, it just comes out of this board game. Like there's some benevolent overlord somewhere that's like manipulating this game, and it's just some kid somewhere in another parallel universe. And I love that feeling of just imagination running wild.
Yeah, I agree. I think the reason why it really resonated with people is the fact that it is a perfect family film. You know, it's got enough interesting action to keep adults interested. It's got enough craziness to be a little different from your typical family film, and it's got something every kid would want to do. It's like, I play all these games. You know this, Scott. You do a gaming podcast.
Right.
It's got all these games. You always want the game to come to life, to really just startle your imagination. And that's what the movie really did at the time. And really surprised me because I remember going to see it and I wasn't really thrilled with going to see it. And my kids loved it. And I was taken aback by it. It was a very warm movie too. I do think the story was a little dark, really dark, especially with the whole, we thought Alan Parrish was dead 26 years. And, I think Dad murdered him, and then you've got all the other stuff. So some of that was a little macabre, but.
Yeah, well, they even mentioned like a number of times, like, well, hey, I thought you were chopped up, or, I thought your dad cut you up into pieces and stuff like that.
Buried you in the walls, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little extreme.
That's pretty.
Like the whole town thought that.
Yeah, how would you like to live in a town where everyone? Well, because explaining to the police that a board game ate my son is probably not going to get you out of it, right?
Well, and he wouldn't have even known. He came home to an empty house with a board game out.
Well, she told people, just nobody believed her, right?
Right.
So and I assume, well, maybe he just didn't believe. He's like, where'd my son go? And why didn't she get arrested? Now that I think about it, Sarah really should have went to jail because she's the only one. She's the last one to see him alive, and he just vanished. I'm thinking she should have served some time.
She would have been out by the time she was 18 anyway. Can't hold a juvie in there after that.
I'm glad you have the rules down, Brian. That makes me a little nervous.
Brian's the expert in 18-year-olds.
Yeah, they're in his price range. What no longer works? We just talked about how great that 1995 movie was, but what doesn't work anymore?
The monkeys.
Yes.
Actually, let me rephrase that because I like the monkeys. The monkeys were a good comedic element to it. But wow, the special effects, which were very good at the time, they have not held up very well at all. So
You know what they reminded me of? They reminded me of the aliens from Mars Attacks. Like they were the same model.
Oh, yeah. That's
They
not
just-
a compliment either, is it?
No, it's not at all. They look like they had the same facial expressions as those aliens. They just slapped a monkey coat of fur on them instead of an alien.
that actually reminded me of those. You remember those rub-on? They weren't stickers, but you had the kind of translucent paper that had the decal sort of
Oh,
thing on the
you
back.
got
and then
them wet? You got them wet and they stayed on your skin, that kind of thing?
No,
fake
you rub
tattoos?
them on on a paper or something. You scrubbed up the top of it with a pencil, and it left this little. It was almost like a tattoo, but it was for paper. Yeah, it just didn't work. They just didn't even. I mean, looking at them now. I mean, at the time, again, it was
Great
It
at the
was.
time, yeah.
it was great, absolutely.
They had like a
But-
sheen to them.
Yeah, they just looked faded out, kind of great, almost like you were looking through a steamed up piece of glass or something. They just looked
Right.
duller than the surroundings that were around them. So.
I could see that. Does anything else not work besides does the story still work for you guys? Does it still hold up?
Well, obviously, you've got to kind of turn your brain off here. We're talking about getting trapped inside of a board game. So,
That can't happen?
not very often.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance.
I mean, come on, look at all the movies that we go in with the suspension of disbelief. Any comic book movie. I mean, that there's no problem with that.
I disagree. Batman's alive. Batman is alive. I've seen him. Shh.
I'm Batman. Batman, thank you for coming on our podcast. He's here.
As far as what really, I guess, maybe doesn't work is some of the way that people just kind of accepted certain things, or was just kind of easily placated by some sort of just quick explanation. Robin Williams asked David Alan Grier.
Yeah, David Alan
Yeah, he's
Grier.
like, hey, what year is it? Granted, there was other distractions and everything going on, but for the most part, it was just kind of like, yeah, what are you talking about? And people just accepted stuff. Sarah just kind of accepted after one or two little nuggets of information that this really is the kid that disappeared 25 years ago.
Yeah, I would have wanted fingerprints or
Yeah.
a DNA sample of some sort, I think.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
come
just
on.
like, yeah, okay.
Isn't that like a tired thing they do in every movie? Like, okay, give me a pop quiz of ask me questions that I would only know. That's done over and over in the movie.
That's true.
I actually kind of appreciated that she could look at him and recognize that it was him, even though he was 26 years older, because they were like best friends when they were kids.
Aw, Scott's making me feels. Well, let's get into, because we want to get into the actual remake that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
But before we do that, should this movie be in no touch status? Is this a untouchable classic? I think it's definitely can be remade, even though the star has passed away. Scott?
I'm in the same boat, but I am kind of torn because I think I mentioned earlier, I like the story and I like how well it flows. But like Brian said, there's so much that could be updated technologically speaking. I'm okay with it, but I don't want a whole lot changed. And so it's like a double-edged sword. I want it to look better, but that's pretty close to it.
All right, Brian?
No, I totally think this is prime. It's just really ripe to be remade. For me, it is beloved, but I could definitely see an upgrade. Even if you do make a couple of tweaks with this, maybe the story or locations or cast, whatever the case is. This is one that not just could be remade, but probably should be remade.
We don't say that too often.
No.
No, that's true.
And I don't
That's true.
think, and while I think this is one of Robin Williams's more memorable roles, I don't think it's one that's necessarily sacred for Robin Williams.
Like Dead Poet Society definitely would be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I mean, I think that he made this role work really well, but it could have just as easily been a lot of different people. I couldn't say the same for the genie in Aladdin or Hook.
Because if you think about it, he's not really funny in this movie.
Right.
No, he's just crazy and out of place. He's a fish out of water
Right.
for a lot of it.
Right.
The nostalgic moments, we kind of tweaked how that's going to work because people liked it, but they just wanted a little bit more clarification, I guess. So we trimmed the scale. It's a scale of 1 to 5, and we all picked our moments beforehand. Basically, how many nostalgic moments do we want in our movie? We all picked a number between 1 and 5, 5 being the most classic, so we got to have the most nostalgic moments, and 1 being this movie wasn't very good. We don't really need a whole lot of nostalgia. And the average we came up with was 4. So we need 4 nostalgic moments in our remake, and the 4 that we have chosen are, number 1, got to have a stampede in this movie, right?
Definitely. Most definitely.
Absolutely.
Number 2, got to have monkeys. Monkeys, monkeys, monkeys. Everybody loves monkeys.
Just better looking monkeys.
Number 3.
Yeah, but change it up. Maybe not so much the ginger chimps or whatever. Put a different.
Hey,
maybe
you're getting ahead of yourself. Calm down.
Okay, sorry.
Simmer down, Beavis. Number 3, a dysfunctional or traumatized Sarah. So the character has to be named Sarah. It doesn't have to be the same kind of character. We can tweak that some. We'll see. And number 4, we have to have a nod to Robin Williams at some point in our remake. Just out of class and respect. We all agreed?
Yeah.
Yep.
If I could make one minor tweak, I would lump in the monkeys and the stampede in one, because I think that's all a special effects thing.
Just make them rabid baboons.
At a rave.
Scott, we've already decided this.
I know.
Why
but
are you coming across and trying to
Derail it.
Yeah, derail this podcast.
because that's what I like to do, Aaron. That's
Really?
what I like to do.
That's your
you hired
mantra.
me for this podcast, and you're earning every penny you paid me.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I still think that the whole aspect of the relationship between Alan and his father has to be in this movie at some point.
We'll get to that because we're going to remake it right now.
All right.
So here's what we know about the intended remake. Not much. They are still actively remaking it. Obviously, Robin Williams is passing, put it off a little bit, so they're kind of retooling how they're going to do it. Sony is going to remake it. They just haven't decided exactly how they're going to do it. One thing I do want to point out, there is an original book. And in the original book, here's what happens. Judy and Peter find a board game in the park. They take it home, hoping to alleviate their boredom. There's a live lion, there's an erupting volcano, and a dozen destructive monkeys. And then the children basically have their jungle adventure come to life. And it was written by Chris Van Allsburg, like I said earlier. The reason I mention that is because there was no time element to the original, or to the book that I'm aware of. I mean, if I didn't read it, I'm just going off the synopsis. It seems very much like they tweaked the movie to make it fit, modern day. So we have to look at do we want to even go with that route? Let's get into it. Let's talk about it. Now, when we talk about a remake, we talk about the plot first. Then we figure out which actors should play which characters. We figure out which director and when the movie should release. But the plot is the big point, and that takes up most of our show. So let's start with the basic plot. Do you want a straight remake of the original, or do we want to tweak it? And everybody gets one cut. That's the caveat of our show. Anytime any of our hosts don't like what the other host says, they yell cut, and we have to adapt or adopt whatever change they want to make. Let's start with you, Brian. What do you think about this story? How do you think we should go about it?
Well, I think if done right, or maybe done in a more, I guess, specific way, this could actually be expanded into, which is so popular now, a trilogy.
How would you do that?
Let's say that whoever it is, boop, goes into the game, it disappears. We can have a whole other movie or two of what's going on there while this 26 years transpires. As far as the basic movie itself, I'd like to, maybe instead of revolving around the house, the Parrish's house, maybe do it in some sort of a technological corporation, or maybe a university type thing where you kind of have the backdrop of all this techie, high, computers and gadgets and all this other stuff going on with this Victorian jungle explorer, thing from 150 years ago. You got the wood and leather type stuff against the silicone and glass and steel. So maybe one of the kids is coming there to hang out with his dad. Dad's busy. They've got the game, him and his sister, whoever.
Okay, you were taking a long time to get there, but now I'm starting to see your vision a little bit. Okay.
Well, that's what I do. I draw things out.
I like what you said about the trilogy, because if you think about it, Jumanji was almost the second in a trilogy, because it fell right in between the kids at the very beginning that were trying to bury the board game, and then at the very end of the movie, Judy and Peter were thrown in the lake, for it to be found by somebody else on the beach. So that's an interesting concept. What would be cool too with that is if you did multiple movies, the typical Hollywood thing rule is that you can't do the same things from the board twice. Like you couldn't have the monkeys in another movie, or you couldn't have the killer plants in the next movie. Maybe double up some of those and have them deal with it in different ways. You know what I mean? Like instead of just running away from it or whatever they did with each one, have to come up with a different solution to get rid of some of the stuff. Not double up everything, but rehash some of it.
Well, hey, you got the one plant in, like let's say in this one here where you just had that one plant that was attacking, but let's say in the second one you've got a whole field of those types of plants, and so you're they're dodging them like Matrix or something, like bullets. So
I like the idea of a trilogy. Here's what I never liked. The one thing in Jumanji, I thought the first movie took way too long to get going. I didn't like the time jump. I always thought that was a bad portion of the movie. I know a lot of people like that. I'm not one of those people. I like the idea of a trilogy, and hear me out, okay? You've got a concept of we're gonna make 3 movies centered around this board game, because you're right, Hollywood's always got to have a master plan like that. What if the first movie is Sarah and Alan? Keep those 2 characters, but the movie focuses on them throughout the entire time frame. So it's those kids as they play this board game. Maybe they start in your office environment like you're talking about, and we'll continue the plot. We'll get to that in a minute. But as it ends, they basically beat the game, but in closing, like as maybe an end stinger or something, one of them for some reason either starts it up again or something and gets sucked into the game, and that's where the next movie will start off.
Okay. See
what I'm saying? Then the next movie starts off 26 years later, whatever that number is, with him coming out of the game, or him or her coming out of the game.
What if you did something like in The Ring, where after you're done with, in the movie The Ring, after they were done with the tape, part of it was that they had to record a copy of it to pass on to somebody else. What if one of the requirements to end the game is that you have to somehow pass that game to the next kids? You see what I'm saying?
Like It Follows, like you have to give it to somebody else.
These kids have to go have sex with another group. No, that's not what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, similar concept.
Or if you win, you can't pass it off to somebody else unless you're defeated or something like that. So even though you win the game and yes, you stop it, but you're also kind of handcuffed to it because now I've got to find other people to play with and basically hope I lose so I can get rid of this.
Like only the winner is free?
No, the opposite. It's a double-edged sword. Like you win, and yes, I stop all this tragedy stuff all this just craziness that's been going on around us. I win, but also by winning,
you're tied to it. You're cursed.
I'm cursed by I'm stuck with this.
But you don't know that until after you've won. Otherwise,
right?
And that would be a perfect stinger because you could end the movie, and he won. Everything set back the way it was.
And still hears those drum beats.
Yeah, and then after like a stinger, you start hearing the drum beats again. Dum 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 dum. And then he finds out, like he's like, what's going on? And the game opens up and says, "You have won. You must find another player."
And the only way to break that curse is for the next group of kids to roll the dice.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we are definitely in the wrong line of business. We
should retire and just write Jumanji movies.
Well, let me throw one other wrench in the fire because we keep talking about.
Why would you throw wrenches in the fire? The same?
You're like the bartender from Boondock Saints.
You're just making up analogies that don't make sense.
All right, man. I put my pants on both arms at a time, just like everybody else.
That's not a saying for real.
I've never heard throw a wrench in the fire.
Throw another iron in the fire. Is that a saying? Is that better?
Well, it technically is technically a saying, but that's not.
You want to stoke the fire. You want to throw a log in the fire. Yeah, that's kind of what you want to do.
All right, let me give another
throw a wrench in the plan, Scott. You want to throw a wrench in the plan?
Sure, that's fine. Whatever. Anyway, we keep talking about this being a board game and being, rolling the dice, but I honestly think that nowadays board games have become a little bit thing of the past.
Mm-hmm.
They're not used as much with technology the way it is. I don't think going like the way of a video game is necessarily the right way, but maybe some kind of interactive, I don't even like an iPad app or something technologically to get the younger audience into it a little bit more.
See, I think that's actually an advantage to have it a board game, because I think I'm starting to like what Brian was saying. You've got this fancy, environment. You've got this technical environment, this modern environment. And the game is very old school, very old world. These kids are at this office. They're bored out of their minds.
Right.
Dad
These
just
pieces are
ignores them.
carved out of, like the tokens are carved out of ivory or obsidian or, all these earthy and, natural elements and stuff. So it's this, and maybe I'm using the wrong word here, but this dichotomy of really these polar opposites that are merged into this one scene.
Yeah, and they kind of want to. I'm bored. I've done everything. I've played every tablet game. I played Xbox all the time. Whatever. Here's this board game. Let's just check this out. I mean, it's something different, something new. We don't know anything about it because we don't play board games anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's how they get wrapped into it to a degree. So I think you can merge your idea and Brian's idea and make a perfect idea. Think about it. I'm telling you, we should quit now because we got a trilogy waiting to be made here. This is perfect, and I think we should just wrap it up because we're going to be rich. Are we in agreement, or do we want to ponder this setting, at least the initial setting, some more? Do we want this to be a trilogy? Let's settle that. Two or more hosts agree, and we move on. That's how it works.
I like the idea of a trilogy, yes.
Okay.
Me too.
Do we want a time jump? Or for this first movie, do we want a time jump? Or do we want to situate or focus on this one group of kids, these first two kids?
I'm actually okay with the idea of the time jump being cross-movie.
Scott, what do you mean by time jumping?
The next movie is where, like, the stinger is where the sucked into the board game, or has to time jump at that point, like in the stinger or something. Or
maybe the kid gets sucked in at the end and the three still remaining are the ones that have to pass on the game to somebody and get them to roll the dice. And then they don't get to do it until years later after the character is a little bit older, maybe not 26 years, but they go through therapy and they're in prison because, like you said, Sarah should have been in prison.
Yeah.
Maybe all three of them go to prison.
I mean, maybe we don't even really need the time jump with the kids. Maybe we can apply that to adults or something in a future movie. I don't like the time jump. I really don't.
Yeah, I'm going to pass on the time jump thing.
Well, and by time jump, it doesn't have to be like 20-something years. It just needs to be a little bit of time. Because if you're going to have kid actors and you have the kid come back for the next movie, he's going to be 2-3 years older.
Well, we can make them teenagers. We can age them a little bit, like make them young teenagers. I mean, hell, they have people on the CW that are still playing 15. They've been playing the same role for 12 years.
That's true.
They're collecting Social Security, and they're in college still.
But don't you think there's some kind of charm with how young they were in Jumanji and they weren't teenagers? They were still kids, but they were smarter than kids.
I do. I do like that. But see, I like the idea of kids having to figure it out themselves as opposed to, well, you've got a kid who was sucked in, came back. Basically, you've got adults that help them out. I like the idea of the kids having to figure it out. Like maybe 4 friends are at dad's office, like Brian's alluding to, and they come across this board game and they decide, it's almost like Ouija. What is Ouija board? Let's play that. Ouija. And then they start playing the game and they have to figure it out. And then the time jump, maybe that comes up, in future movies, but the first movie I don't think needs to have a time jump. I think we focus on however many kids we focus on. Maybe 3 kids and some random adult.
Drawing the perils to them instead of taking them away to somewhere else.
Yeah, we have to agree on the main setting though, so we can move forward here.
Yeah, at least the first one.
Okay.
And again, at least the first one. We don't deal with time jumping. We just.
Yeah, I think we were all in agreement on that until the very
future
end,
future
right?
installments. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now Scott's really wants the dad and son dysfunctional relationship. We can still have that without a time jump and just make the dad that is very focused on work very similar to the first movie, and Alan is that kid, right? We can still do that.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that kind of fits with the tech world. You know, hey, they're having to do this, and basically they're having to come to him because he's too busy to really pay them the attention that he should be giving them.
Mm-hmm. And he doesn't have a whole lot of faith in his son because his son isn't. He doesn't think he's a go-getter. He doesn't think he has the same ambition that he does. He can't handle himself. And through the course of the game, maybe he is forced to help, or not help, but his son is forced to help him get out of that situation, and he learns to appreciate his son more. Because with all this craziness going on, he realizes my son is a lot deeper and smarter than I ever thought. He's doing, and he cares about people, and he's ambitious. He's going to finish it. He just doesn't like the same things that I like. You know what I mean?
So he's not quite as distant.
Yeah, I think if you have it, maybe we have 3 kids instead of 4. We have 3 kids and the father relationship. They're at Dad's office. Mm-hmm. They find the game. They're trying to cure boredom. They start this game up, starts the craziness. And Dad starts seeing it because, you've got a stampede of stuff running through his office building. He kind of notices. And so through the course of, all his disappointment with his son because he thinks his son is not amounting to anything, through the course of these events and seeing how headstrong his son is, how determined he is to fix this and put everything back right, and cares for people as the animals or creatures put everybody else in danger. He sees, my son is a lot deeper, more focused, more ambitious than I ever understood. So he understands his son through the course of the movie better. Their relationship grows stronger.
That sounds a little cliche.
Yeah.
Like
it does. But apparently Scott doesn't want me in the writer's room. All right. Well, what's your idea?
I'm not cutting it. That's like a very
generic,
typical. Oh, Dad. That's not how Jumanji went down. It was in the movie. As far as time is concerned, there was just like 5 minutes had passed, even though Alan experienced like all these days or whatever where he was an adult, or 26 years. There was never that Dad realizes it. It was more that Alan realized it and then went to his dad and apologized and said, I really love you. And they kind of made up on the spot, and it went from there.
All right. Well, you want to stick with that then?
Well,
since my version's too cliched.
I mean, what do you think, Brian?
I was fine with it. I thought it was, there's so much craziness going on with this movie. Maybe we need a little cliche in it.
Okay. I just want to see a little bit more where Mr. Parrish shows that he actually does love his son as much as he was talked about in the movie, because the only time we ever saw them together was him being condescending to his kid, talking down to him. And then like you find out later that I don't think anybody loved his kid more than Mr. Parrish, Sam Parrish. And I'm like, really? How come we never got to see any of that?
Maybe nobody in this town really likes their kid. They ever think about that? Maybe everybody hates their child.
So he was actually a step up from everybody else in town.
Yeah,
is that what
he was so bad a dad, but everybody else was worse.
Right.
And so he's the best bad dad in town.
Okay.
Maybe that's it. Okay, well we got that. So 3 kids, 4 kids. What's the decision here? We got to vote.
I think 4's too many.
Okay, so 3.
Yep.
3 and Dad.
Sure, 3 works.
Okay, so those are our main characters. Okay, so we've got. Do we combine names here? We've got Alan. You've got Sarah, because we got to have a traumatized Sarah, who I think gets traumatized just from everything that happens, really. And do we have one of the other kids, or would you save those kids for the future movies? Do we just name some other kid?
See, but how are we going to get Sarah traumatized without...
Future movies, Scott. Future movies. Should be traumatized in future movies.
Oh, okay. So Sarah's going to be fine. Okay, gotcha. Okay.
The guy that ended up being a cop, David Alan Grier. How about him?
Make him a cop in the sequel. He grows up to be a cop. One of the kids grows up to be a cop.
Okay, so we'll go with David Alan Grier's characters. You've got Alan, Sarah, and Carl. Sarah's got to be traumatized from something, but she can be traumatized coming into the movie. Maybe something along the lines of something that happened a few years back. Animal attack. I know that's cliched. Got something better why she would be traumatized?
Car accident.
Oh, that's more cliched than my dad thing.
Maybe her parents died just
Maybe her parents died in a
After-
stampede.
yeah. Hey, whatever, you know.
A monkey attack at the zoo. Monkeys went wild.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, no, that's actually. Wait a minute, that's not a bad idea. I mean,
I see where you're going with this.
sure, you know, you're talking about all these repercussions. You know, all these things that are all these buildings that's being destroyed and all this other stuff. Somebody's got to get hurt. This could lead up to some angst against her and her friends. Where, yeah, we played this game, and sure, your parents are fine, but mine are dead now because they got ran over by some rhinos. You know, and if you wouldn't have started this game, you know, this is
My parents would be
she's
alive.
just mad because, you know, she's paid a price for playing this game, but maybe nobody else has, or maybe they have, but they've kind of
Ooh, that would carry
got it
over.
balanced out.
That would carry over
And
into a trilogy.
Exactly.
I like
That's
it.
the idea.
I'm sold on that. So her parents bite it from one of the attacks. Okay, so let's figure out what our monsters are going to be, or our animals. We're gonna have a stampede. So we've got 3 kids. We got Carl, Alan, and Sarah. They find the game. They go into Dad's factory, modern factory. Find the game, start the game because they're bored. They don't realize what's going on, but once they start, they find out that they have to finish through whatever the game tells them, whatever. And then basically, what is the first thing that comes out? The monkeys?
Well, it got to be something relatively small, and I think undetectable. I think the mosquitoes were a pretty decent call in the real movie.
You know what? Let's make it, instead of making it a disaster, the first one, let's make the first time they play, it's actually something nice, something that is engaging, endearing, wants to make them play again.
Like a get out of jail free card kind of thing?
No, like
It's not all
butterflies, something cool. Like they
No, it's like,
release.
you know, when the drug dealer gives you that first little, you know, bit
Yeah.
of weed, and you're like, you know what, this is actually pretty good. I think I'll buy some more now.
Exactly. You get them sucked in. It's like, oh, all right, this game is cool. Look at that. We got butterflies or whatever it is.
Yeah, and then by the time like the second thing comes around or the third thing comes around, you're so wrapped up into it, something bad happens, you're just like, well, okay, but all this other good has happened. I'll keep going until you're trapped. It's like quicksand.
I like that.
So
So
quicksand. That's next.
yeah, absolutely, we can have it introduced.
Well, they kind of had quicksand. That was the very end,
That's true.
which was cool to have at the end because then they stopped it and he was stuck in the floor.
That was a cool thing. You can use something along those lines also.
We want the monkeys. We want that. We're going to have a nice start. And actually, the monkeys could be one of the nice starts, too, because they seem friendly at first till they get, carried away.
Yeah, because in the movie they were just like immediately evil. You didn't see them appear. They just went down in the kitchen and they were there just raising hell. But you could have them slowly emerge out, just kind of shy, like where are we, whatever. Oh, look at the monkeys, and then they just flip a switch and
I like it. I
it was
like it.
crazy.
What else? We got the stampede, I assume, of like rhinos or whatever that was. Anything else we want to add?
I mean, does it have to be all jungle? Do we have to stick with that, or can we
What else?
just make it any kind of, I don't know, like 12 plagues type stuff? I don't know.
Oh, we could.
Well, I mean,
We could have sharks or something in like a neighbor's pool.
Then you have your whole Aquaman argument that as long as you just stay away from the pool, you're fine.
Yeah, but like it's at the public pool and there's a bunch of people in the pool and there's sharks. Nobody gets killed, but there's some biting going on. No, that's too far. Is that too dark?
Well, it doesn't affect
See,
the kids playing the game.
now we're kind of getting a little too deep into the details now, because now it's like, okay, well, this is Jumanji. This is a game, and this whole feel of this game is like African explorer, 1700s, 1800s feel. There's a lot of things that's specific to that. And I mean, now you start throwing in sharks and polar bears. It kind of takes away from this
The Jumanji
vibe,
part of it?
This mystical game from some dark continent type.
But
of
that's
thing.
my question. Does it have to be that? What if like it was set in?
I think if you use the word Jumanji, there's not
Yeah.
many polar bears around.
I think
Jumanji.
I think by getting away from the African, Brian's right in that respect. I think if we do that, we do to jungles for Jumanji what we did with science and the Weird Science remake. We just completely ignore the logic of it. So yeah, I think jungles. Yes, my vote is yes. It has to be part of it.
Okay.
So we can go snakes. We got spiders.
Giant spiders. We can
Snakes
have-
weren't in there in the movie.
Yeah.
That's a good call to add.
There we go. We got some snakes. We got some spiders.
I mean, we're not just lions. I mean, but you got like cheetahs. So you're trying to run away from something. Now you got the fastest mammal on the planet that's chasing you down.
I say swap out the lion with the cheetah for sure.
Shoot, have both of them.
Ooh.
You know?
Yeah, why not? It's our movie. Let's go crazy.
You know, we could make the stampede. It doesn't have to be rhinos and elephants. It could be lions and cheetahs and
Bears, oh my.
oh my, exactly. You know, all sorts of African cats. You know, Africa isn't just dark jungles and stuff. I mean, we got desert stuff. So I mean, there's
Scorpions.
some sort of
Scorpions. I love
snakes.
scorpions, yes.
You know, like I said, there's different kinds of snakes.
So we initially
Crocodile.
started with something like butterflies, and then we get the monkeys, and they start out friendly, but they turn. Then we have a stampede of cheetahs and lions. Is that what we're going with? Just to shake it up, kind of like to combine the two from the first movie.
The cats are kind of, generally speaking, are real stealthy.
Yeah.
So you can have them being basically hunted. They know something's following them, but they don't know what it is. They just look. I feel like something is watching me, you know, and that could be something that's, you know, pacing them. You know, they're walking down the street, but maybe some lions and leopards are you know, kind of walking parallel through the woods where they can't see.
I
You
thought
know,
you
that kind
having,
of stuff.
having that ominous thing that they always are looking over their shoulder. I mean, it would be really cool because in the movie, outside of the mosquitoes and the stampede, they never saw the same thing twice. They never came back to it. And it like as soon as they escaped from it, they were escaped from it again, except for the stampede and the mosquitoes. It would be kind of cool to have that. They're always checking. Is the cheetah over there stalking us right now? Having that constant presence instead of we got away from it, we never have to worry about it again.
Yeah, definitely.
And we can still have the stampede. So we're getting best of both worlds there.
So
But
we
they
can
should
have
be two different things. One jungle cats, one stampede.
stampede of cheetah. I'm confused. So we want
No.
you want a stampede of rhinos and also cats.
Yeah.
A cat and a cheetah, a lion and a cheetah come through at some
Yep.
point. Okay, and then you've got
Hippos.
snakes. Well, you can't have every animal in the jungle, Brian.
Yeah.
This movie's only like 2 hours
We're in
long.
the stampede in the original.
Oh, there we go. Hippos and rhinos are part of the stampede.
Okay.
We've got snakes, scorpions, crocodiles. Did you want to add crocodiles like to the last one?
Well, there were crocodiles in the water portion in the house at the end when the water came gushing in, or the torrential rainstorm, and crocodiles just wound up being in the water for some reason.
Well, I think if we're going to have all these animals, the climax has to be, you know, obviously they got to complete the game and they're trying to fight through the chaos to complete the game. And maybe they complete the game. They have to basically venture back through everything that's been released in order to complete the game somehow.
That's awesome. I like that.
So everything comes back around.
They experience all of whatever came out at least one more time in like a final circuit before the game
Just like
finishes.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. All right. I think we got a movie. Who do we want in our movie?
See, this is where it gets difficult because
It
if
does.
we're going to have kid actors or kids, it's so hard to think of kid actors that aren't just the ones that are just super hot right now, like Asa Butterfield and Chloe Grace Moretz, who's actually not a kid anymore, I don't think. Is
Well,
she?
you got to remember, though, I mean, if we went teenager route, a lot of these 18 to 22-year-olds could play teenage roles pretty easy. And we've got 3 that we got to cast. We got to have Alan, we got to have Sarah, and we got to have Carl, and then a dad. So let's take dad first. Who should our dad be? Who's the guy that you think can be really not a great father until the end of the movie?
What about Ben Stiller? Depending on how his character is actually molded, he can do a little bit of comedy if necessary. He can be the stuffy type guy. He's old enough to be a believable dad to these young kids, but these young teenagers. He's done a lot of versatile work, and if he's dressed up to be older, like this father / Van Pelt character, then he could pull that off pretty easily. Also, he's in that good middle range. He's not too old. He's not too young.
Scott, do you like Ben Stiller? Or do you have a better choice?
I honestly thought of Ben Stiller when I was initially trying to come up with somebody, but putting him in this movie reminded me too much of Night at the Museum.
I could see that. I could see that. You got somebody better?
David Cross, who you might remember. I know him most from Arrested Development, but I know you haven't seen that, Aaron. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I know who David Cross
Goofy bald
is.
guy with the glasses. Because I think he could be crazy enough, but I also want to see him have the serious side that Rob Williams pulled off in this movie, but was also still goofy as well. Because he's just an idiot. He really is.
How dark can he play, though? Because I only see him being an idiot.
All right. What about Steve Carell?
I thought of him too. I thought he was a little old. It was my only concern. He's like 53.
You really just can't buy into the whole acting younger than you are, can you?
Not if you don't look it.
He doesn't look like 85 years old or anything. I mean, Ben Stiller is probably about the same age, I would guess. I don't like David Cross just because I've never seen him play anything but, goofy and sarcastic.
Well, what did you see Robin Williams do before Jumanji came out?
A lot. He's actually a very talented actor. He's done a ton
I know.
more. A lot before Jumanji. I haven't seen David Cross do anything. I'm not knocking it. I mean, maybe I just haven't seen it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably be more inclined to go with a Carell or Stiller can be dark. He's done some dark stuff. Unfortunately, most people don't know it. They don't know too many Fokker movies. But I agree with Scott. That's too close to Night at the Museum. It's really, I think it would be distracting. All right, here's my lone suggestion. Maybe it's because I've been watching too much Walking Dead, but how about Andrew Lincoln? I mean, we all know he can do dark, and I've seen him have some moments with Carl on that show. I think he could, and he's humorous because if you've ever seen Love Actually, I mean, he's a really charming guy. I think he could play both ends of that.
Interesting.
It's one of those that I want to see how it plays out more than I think it's a good idea. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying it's a bad idea. It's more of like a curiosity thing for me.
Would William H. Macy be too old?
I'm using my cut. It's going to be Andrew Lincoln. So there you go. Problem solved.
All right.
Now let's go to the kids. Alan Parrish. That's the beauty of a cut. I can use it whenever I want, and it's my call at that point. These guys still have each one of their cuts. Who do we want to play Alan? Any suggestions?
It's so hard to come up with kids at all. I mean, Asa Butterfield is the only one I can even think of off the top of my head.
I think he'd be great. I'm good with that. Sold. So who's our Sarah? That's two. Remember, if two hosts agree on it, we move on. Who would be our Sarah? Who's a young teenage or younger actress? That would be a good fit.
Isn't there still a young one of those Olsen girls, who's still young enough to be a teenager? Or
I don't think so. No,
I thought they had still had one more younger sister or something. That's
really going to be your pick. One of the Olsen kids that's left over.
I don't know many.
How about
know many child female.
How about Elle Fanning?
Oh, I like Elle Fanning. Yes,
from Super 8.
I'm sold. That's fine. Sounds good to me. And who do we want for our third character? Carl. Stefan James. He's an actor that was in Selma. I like him. Amal Amin. He was in Maze Runner.
Stefan James looks really... He's only 13. Wow.
And no, Stefan James is not. He's like 20-something. He's 22.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing the math backwards. Yeah, he doesn't look like a teenager.
All right, I got it. Instead of Carl being, David Alan Grier stereotype, let's change it up a little bit. We rename the character Cheryl, and we go with Amandla Stenberg. She played Rue in the original Hunger Games. She's right at that age range. She's 17, 18, adorable, precocious. I think she'd be a good fit. So then we've got this nice trifecta of kids. All right. So we've got our cast. Finally, we've got our cast. Who directs this damn movie? Who can handle jungle themes and parental issues and insanity like tigers and cheetahs living together, mass hysteria? Who's the director?
Guillermo del Toro.
Wow, you want it really dark.
Yes, I do.
How dark? You want people being eaten by lions and tigers.
I actually do want this movie to be a lot darker. I think that Jumanji was more of a comedy, more of a kid's movie.
Mm-hmm.
But the whole concept of all that stuff coming out of there could get dark really quick. if it, in real life that happened.
So you want it less played for laughs and family value. You want it more like this. If this really happened, this would be a nightmare.
Yes, absolutely. Because I mean, the original feels so much like a '90s. This is bad, but we're still having fun routine. I want it to be more ominous. I want it to be more life-threatening, almost not a horror film, but a thriller.
You sold me. I'm on board.
Yeah. All right, man.
And if you want it to go dark, Del Toro's the guy that make it go dark. And now it still stays PG-13 though, because it's still a family movie, right?
Yeah, I don't think I want it to go to the R level.
Yeah, we're not doing Gremlins on this where people lose fingers.
We don't want any dogs dying.
I'm okay with a dog getting eaten. Seriously, I want more dogs dead in movies. I don't know why I have that thing, but I have that thing.
Yeah, see, I totally disagree, but all right.
Hey, it's what I do. It's what I do.
You're twisted. You're sadistic.
I am.
It's all right. It's all right, Michael Vick. I got you.
When do we release it? I assume this is still a summer movie. It seems like either a summer or a Christmas film.
Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Ooh.
Thanksgiving.
Okay, well, it's 2-1. 2 wins. So Thanksgiving it is. Wow. We finally came to a conclusion. Yes.
We agreed way too much.
That's only because I think we didn't know what the hell was going on for a good portion of it, because we're like, what's going on? Thankfully, we have come to a conclusion. We have our modern setting. We've got 3 kids. We've got the dad who we're having issues with. We've got monsters, and we've got all of the monsters coming back around. So we've got a complete climax for our movie, and we've got a stinger after the credits. I don't know how much more movie that we could really make.
I think we're good.
How would our trilogy go? How does our trilogy end? Like, what's our goal, our end goal? Just totally to finish the game?
Wow.
No, the board game has to get destroyed and thrown in the fires of Mordor or something like that.
In the third movie, it just ends with people like, all right, let's find those eagles.
Maybe it ends up opening, or they discover that there's actually doors. This is kind of like basically this game ends up being like a window, so to speak, in this larger mansion. So in a way, and I that's, I guess, kind of a metaphor, but
kind of, it feels exactly like a metaphor.
My point is that like they find out there's actually portals to different universes, alternate realities, whichever, maybe all of the above or something.
Oh, what, the very last movie, like that's the ending?
Like way later, like in the second, third movie.
No.
But this is their introduction to the pathways to that. Hey, you can actually jump from these types of things. It's not just necessarily just time, but it's
different
alternate
set
reality.
pieces of locations and different kinds of games.
No, even better. The jungle world has people living in it too, and their version of a board game is they get all the horrors from our reality that come to them. So they roll the dice and Donald Trump comes out or something like that.
Scott, you had me for a minute, and then
yeah, because I'm sitting there going, okay, they got like, all right, acid rain. All of a sudden, Fufu rolls the dice, and all of a sudden, his village is covered in plastic water bottles or something.
And bad hair, apparently. Okay, well, Brian's idea makes sense. Scott, once again, I'm a little leery on it.
Thanks for playing.
Well, I think it's time. Brian, I like that. I like that we find out at the very, very end that it's actually a bigger universe. And maybe that would lead into more franchises should our trilogy be as successful as it should be.
Because here's the thing. Here's the one thing that we hate about these trilogies, and Jurassic World, of course, touched on this. This was a pretty big point in their movie, is everything gets, has to be bigger and badder. Well, nobody wants to watch 3 straight movies of, I don't know, Jumanji-esque perils. It's that shtick gets tired. So it's got to be the same, or it's got to have that, but you've got to do something different every movie. So
okay, and I like as our trilogy progressed, you would have Sarah become an antagonist either in the second or third film because of her trauma with her unfortunate parental stampede accident. It happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes when rhinos are chasing you.
Well, hey, Mama gets a leopard that jumps out of a tree and chews her throat off. So
Wow, that is Del Toro. There you go. All right, well, I think we've got our movie. And actually, it seems more in line with the actual original Jumanji than Weird Science sure did. Let's take a listen to our final pitch. This is Wayne Henderson. Go to mediavoiceovers.com. We have our renowned voiceover artist, Wayne Henderson, who is here to present our movie in movie trailer form. Take it away, Wayne.
In a world where Alan Parrish has it all, friends, money, status, everything except what he needs most, his father's respect and adoration. Late one night, while he waits yet again for his father to finish slaving away at his lavish technical facility, Alan gathers his closest friends, Sarah and Carl, to help him pass the time. Boredom gives way to curiosity as the trio stumble across a curious antique board game that promises an adventure these kids will never forget. What begins as something magical quickly turns deadly as Alan and friends realize the magnitude and unfortunate consequences of what they have just unleashed. Stampedes, monkeys, cheetahs, lions, spiders, scorpions, the entire jungle comes to life in visionary filmmaker Guillermo del Toro's Jumanji, the first in a planned trilogy revolving around the most exciting board game you never want to play. Join Andrew Lincoln, Asa Butterfield, Elle Fanning, and the Hunger Games' Amanda Stenberg as they band together in an attempt to fend off nature's deadliest predators in a race against time to, you guessed it, to save their town from certain destruction. The pieces are in place. The stakes are real. This Thanksgiving, the game comes alive. Jumanji.
That was great. Nice job, Wayne. Nice job.
nice.
That was
Nice.
awesome.
That dude is awesome.
That dude is
Wow.
awesome. Well, that's our movie. What did you guys think? Did we nail it? Do you think you have a better pitch? Then email us your short pitch and thoughts on this week's show to remakethismovie.right@gmail.com. That's remakethismovie.right@gmail.com, and we'll read the best pitches on next week's teaser episode. Remember, Remake This Movie Right, the actual remakes are every other week. So in between, we have a little teaser episode where we kind of go over feedback, other listener pitches, etc. Please review us on iTunes. Give us a thumbs up on Stitcher. Put our RSS feed in your podcast app. Obviously, you're listening to it. Make sure you subscribe so you hear the next one. I want to make sure and plug Wayne Henderson. He is our voiceover artist, and he does a fantastic job with those movie trailers. You can find him at mediavoiceovers.com. He also does several podcasts. The Packers Fan Podcast. He does the Under the Dome Radio. Why do I sing it? Because they do. And he also does a voiceover journey podcast, which is really interesting. Brian Williams, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at Brian, BRIANWMS. Of course, you can find me on the Hollywood Outsider group on Facebook. I guess that's about it.
And we do have a Remake This Movie Right group as well, so join either one of those. That would be fantastic. We'd love to hear from you. Scotty, where can people find you? We're going to hear
We've actually got a website for The Gaming Outsider. It's thegamingoutsider.com. We've also got a Twitter handle, which is TheGoCast. If you like video games, come check us out.
Oh, excellent. Fun show, guys. I mean, we really struggled there for a little bit. In closing, we got to have it. What is our nod to Robin Williams in our movie? We never decided. What is our nod?
Oh. All right. In Jumanji, in the movie Jumanji, there's a scene where Robin Williams goes to see his parents' grave.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a similar scene in this, I know we're not doing the time jump thing, but if there is a similar scene in it, I'm just kind of going with it. I'm taking that scene out. I say as he's walking up to see his parents' grave, one of the ones you catch a glimpse of in the nearby vicinity has his name and birth year, death year on it. Maybe that's a little too close to home.
It depends on how it was handled. If somebody, like one of the kids was putting a rose, like Sarah, her parents were just buried because of this calamity and they're still working it through. Like maybe the game takes a week or so to complete. And then she put a rose on a tombstone and her father's name is Robin Williams or something along those lines, or something that alludes to Robin Williams.
Mm-hmm.
How about that?
Yeah. Or we could just have, we love posters in our remakes. Apparently, just have like an Aladdin poster in the kids' room or something.
That might be a little less on the nose. One of those two. What do you guys think? We're definitely going to have a nod to Robin Williams. Maybe somebody here has a better way to throw a nod to Robin Williams in. We'd love to hear it. Remake this movie right at gmail.com. We're going to wrap this up. Remember, we do have a Facebook group, so definitely join up. You can go to the website, remakethismovieright.com, or tweet us at remakeRight. That's going to do it for this episode of Remake This Movie Right. And as you leave, remember the next movie you watch, it will get a remake someday, and only you can make it better.